So picture the last stretch. England down to 10, clinging to a 1-goal lead. Switch to a back 5 with Dan Burn and Jed Spence thrown on to build a wall. Mexico threw everything at them, cross after cross after cross into a besieged box. 80,000 people roaring them forward. An entire nation's World Cup dream hanging on one more goal. The fourth official's board goes up. 11 minutes of stoppage time. 11. And then Fagani awards 2 more corners deep into it. And it stretches past 12. In the middle of that siege, John Stones nearly turned a clearance into his own net. The ball skidding inches wide of the England post, the kind of moment that would have been the cruelest gut punch of the whole tournament. But Burn was immense, Pickford was calm, and England headed everything clear until finally, mercifully, the whistle went. They'd done it. 10-man altitude, the Azteca, all of it. And even then, the night had one more absurd twist left. In the raw, delirious celebrations at full time, Jordan Henderson toppled over the advertising hoardings, injured his wrist badly enough to need oxygen, and was stretched off the pitch and taken to hospital. He didn't fly home with the squad, think about that. A team survives one of the most hostile, chaotic knockout games in recent memory, and loses a player not to a Mexican tackle, but to the celebration itself. It doesn't fit the evening, Tuchel said. And he was right. Let's take the whole thing seriously for a moment. Because underneath the madness, this genuinely was a special night for both sides. For England, this was arguably their finest World Cup knockout win since 1966. A result dragged out of nothing but nerve and will. Exactly the kind of ignition Tuchel has been hunting. Bellingham, who was magnificent, called the atmosphere the best he'd played against in international football, and meant it as a compliment to a country that adores its team. For Mexico, this was heartbreak on a national scale. This was their unofficial final the co-hosts' farewell on their own iconic turf. Their best shot at a first quarterfinal since 1986, and an end to a curse that has seen them bounced from the round of 16 8 separate times. Instead, El Tri fell one hurdle short again. Javier Aguirre, stepping away after his third stint in charge and handing the reins to Rafael Marquez, summed it up with a line that'll haunt Mexican fans all summer. To dream and then fall like this hurts deeply. They had everything, all home altitude. 80,000 voices, a man advantage for most of the second half, and it still wasn't enough. To put the scale of it in perspective, the Azteca has stood since 1966, and this was only the third competitive defeat Mexico have ever suffered inside their own fortress. England didn't just win a game there. They took something that almost never gets taken. So why will this match be remembered when the group games and the routine wins have all blurred together? Because it wasn't one controversy, it was all of them stacked on top of each other, each one raising the temperature of the next. The sleepless hotel siege fed the hostility. The thunderstorm delay stretched the tension. The 98-second double stunned a crowd that then roared back to life on one set piece. The red card lit the benches. The penalties turned a hero into a villain and back into a survivor. And the whole ungovernable thing kept climbing gear after gear until 11 men in white were throwing their bodies in front of everything the loudest stadium on the planet could throw at. The most England advanced to a quarterfinal against Erling Haaland's Norway on Saturday, without the suspended Kwanzaa Aero, whose red card rules him out of Miami, but leaves the door open for a return should England reach the semi-finals. And with Henderson in a hospital bed and the right-back slot now a genuine crisis, Tuchel will be glad of the calmer week. Because a team can only survive a night like the Azteca so many times before the noise finally wins. If your heart survived those 11 minutes of stoppage time, you're tougher than I am. Tell me below whether Fagani belongs in the final or belongs nowhere near 1A, because clearly nobody can agree, and I want to hear your verdict. You want to know what actually happened at the Estadio Azteca on Sunday night? Then forget the scoreline for a second, because 3-2 doesn't come close to describing it. This was a match with a 2-goal lead built in 98 seconds. A straight red card. A bench-clearing scrap with punches reportedly flying. 2 penalties pulled out of a pitch-side monitor. 11 minutes of stoppage time that somehow stretched to 12. and an England player stretched off needing oxygen while his teammates were still celebrating. And that's the short version. So let's actually walk through it. Because this wasn't a football match, it was a survival story, with a football match breaking out in the middle of it. And here's the thing you have to understand first. The chaos didn't start at kickoff. It started the night before, in a hotel car park. While England's players were trying to sleep ahead of the biggest game of their tournament, dozens of Mexican fans gathered outside their hotel in Santa Fe. On the western edge of Mexico City, armed with loudspeakers, air horns, and fireworks, and they kept going into the early hours of Sunday morning. Police blockades didn't stop them. This wasn't random rowdiness either. It's a genuine entrenched Latin American football tradition, the late-night serenade. And it has quietly evolved from a show of love for the home team into a deliberate psychological weapon designed to steal an opponent's sleep. They had run the exact same playbook days earlier, camping outside Ecuador's hotel before knocking them out 2-0, a stunt that made Ecuador's federation angry enough to file a formal complaint. Thomas Tuchel, to his credit, shrugged it off, pointing out England had a 6 p.m. kickoff and could catch up on sleep in the late morning. But the message was already sent: you are not welcome here, and a ball hadn't even been kicked. Then there's the stadium itself. You cannot talk about England at the Azteca without talking about the ghost that lives there. This was England's first return to this exact ground since 1986. Since Diego Maradona, since the hand of God. The single most infamous moment in this fixture's history. So the venue was already loaded before you added anything else. And Mexico added everything else. This place sits at roughly 7,350 feet, 2,240 meters, above sea level. Thin air that leaves visiting players genuinely lightheaded. And it was packed with 80,824 supporters who never stopped for 90-plus minutes. Their new rallying cry, "Así se puede," what if we can? Yuri rolled around the bowl like weather. Then the actual weather showed up. Thunderstorms and driving rain forced the kickoff back a full hour. While everyone waited, the stadium DJ played "Don't Look Back in Anger," and 80,000 Mexicans booed it into oblivion. That's the atmosphere England walked into. Now the football. Before the football exploded, there was a quieter battle that mattered just as much. England simply trying to breathe. Tuchel had identified one very specific target for the opening exchanges, getting his team to the first hydration break without conceding, because that's the point where the thin air starts to feel survivable, and the initial Mexican onslaught tends to fade. Mexico were always going to come flying out, slick with their passing, riding the tidal wave from the stands. And they nearly landed the first blow when Raúl Jiménez met a cross with a diving header on 16 minutes, only for Pickford to fly low and paw it away. It was a save that let England exhale. Cool heads, correct spacing, don't overcommit, don't get sucked into the noise. The crowd hated how slowly England moved the ball. That was exactly the point. Then, once they'd found their footing, they didn't just weather it, they punched. For about 7 minutes, England looked like they might get swallowed whole. Then Jude Bellingham decided the noise was fuel. Pickford threw it quickly to Declan Rice. Rice drove forward and fed Bukayo Saka. Saka bought himself a yard and whipped in a perfect cross. And Bellingham arrived like a freight train to bury the header. Seconds later, straight from the kickoff, England did it again. I saw Bellingham bundling home Kane's low cross because he simply wanted it more than anyone in green. 2 goals in a minute and a half, in the loudest stadium on earth, against a Mexico side that had gone 4 straight World Cup games without conceding a single goal. It should have been the knockout blow. Of course it wasn't, because the Azteca wasn't done with them. Right before halftime, Ezri Konsa only half cleared a Mexican free kick. The loose ball dropped and Julian Quimpuans absolutely leathered it into the net. 2-1, the stadium detonated. Suddenly, a game England had by the throat was a live grenade again. You could feel it here, that horrible sense that the whole thing was tilting. That the crowd had found its voice and the momentum with it. England survived to the break. Bellingham of all people making a last-ditch saving challenge on a Mexican header. But the vibe going down the tunnel wasn't "we're winning." It was "we're in trouble." Now, if you thought the first half was chaotic, the second half is where this game genuinely lost its mind. England actually came out for the second half on the front foot, sensing they needed the next goal to settle the tie. Nico O'Reilly pushed up from left back and rattled a shot off the post from outside the box, inches from a fourth that would have finished Mexico off. That was the version of the night where England reasserted control and cruised home. It lasted about 4 minutes, because in the 54th minute, everything changed. England's stand-in right-back Jarell Quansah Ajiwo, back from injury and clearly not up to full speed, Ajiwo went flying into a sliding challenge on Hezamos Gallardo. Studs up, foot high. It was the kind of lunge that makes you wince twice. Once when it lands, and once on the replay. The referee, the vastly experienced Australian-Iranian official Alireza Fagani Ayero, initially played on, but the video assistant referee pulled him to the monitor, and he had no option. Straight red, 10 men. Even Alan Shearer, who at first thought Quansah had timed it, took one look at the slow motion and called it a nasty, nasty challenge. Former World Cup final assistant Darren Cann was blunter still, saying it was 100% a red card. And here's why it mattered beyond the numbers. England now had to survive more than half of a knockout game a man down, at altitude, against the host nation in that cauldron. The mountain just doubled in height, but the red card isn't even the part everyone's talking about. Because as Quansah trudged off, both benches erupted. The Mexican staff were incensed, convinced it was a filthy tackle. And according to Shearer on commentary, it spilled into an actual scrap. Punches reportedly thrown. Chaos on the touchline. England's injured defender Reece James was seen in a full screaming match with Mexican legend Guillermo Ochoa. This is the substitutes and the coaching staff going at it while the players on the pitch tried to process being down to 10. The game was no longer teetering on the edge of boiling over. It had boiled over. And it was still only the 55th minute. Somehow England answered. Barely 5 minutes after the red card, Anthony Gordon chased a loose ball into the box. Got there a fraction before Mexico keeper Ramon Rangel, and Rangel wiped him out. Penalty, Harry Kane, who moments earlier had reportedly been showered with beer thrown from the stands, stepped up and calmly made it 3-1. Iwao, his 6th goal of the tournament, and his 73rd of the season for club and country. 10 men, 2 goals up, job nearly done. You already know it didn't stay that way, because this is where Kane went from hero to villain in the space of 9 minutes. Defending yet another Mexican set piece, Kane swung to clear and never saw substitute Brian Gudiu, Rez arriving behind him. He kicked clean through the Mexican's foot. Fagani waved it away. Then once again the monitor called, and once again he pointed to the spot. Rionel Jimen Nazaire, a man who has scored more goals against Jordan Pickford than any other player alive, buried it with ice in his veins. 3-2. And now England had a proper, terrifying grandstand finish to survive. That penalty is the decision that split the football world in half. And it's worth taking seriously rather than just screaming about, because both sides have a real argument. Shearer was adamant it was wrong, saying that's a kick of the foot, not a penalty, insisting it wasn't a clear and obvious error worth overturning. Tuchel went nuclear afterward, telling the BBC the referees are just not good enough, fuming that VAR had invented a foul the referee hadn't even given in the first place, and pointedly wondering aloud whether a South American VAR crew should have been on a match of this magnitude. You can understand the rage. But then Darren Cann, a former top-flight official, calmly explained it actually was a penalty, that Kane did clip the foot, and that it was near identical to a Madrid A++ challenge England themselves won a penalty for earlier in this very tournament. Joe Hart, watching every replay with his heart in his mouth, agreed the referee got all 3 big calls right. And here's the twist that drives England fans mad. A huge chunk of the football world thought Fagani was outstanding. So good that fans were flooding social media demanding FIFA hand him the final. The most experienced referee at the tournament. The only man ever appointed to 4 straight World Cups. Half the planet wanted to promote him. while Tuchel wanted him nowhere near a whistle again. Both things were said about the same performance on the same night. That's how insane this game was.